All right. Yeah, let's kick
Here we
things
go.
off. So welcome, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hoff. I'm with the Midwest Farm Report Radio Network, based in Madison, Wisconsin. We cover the state of Wisconsin, and I'm also the West Region Vice President with NAFB. And so my goal for today, when we were brainstorming ideas, is that I really wanted to have an informal discussion with you all to help kind of stimulate our brains, think outside the box when it comes to how we add value to our stations or our own paychecks. And where this idea comes from is that when I joined NAFB, there were kind of two ongoing jokes. One was that NAFB is an acronym for nearly always free beer. And the other joke was that NAFB, farm broadcasters aren't known to be Rockefellers, right? The joke is that we don't make a lot of money in this business. And if you take a minute and you think about that and think about the challenges we face when it comes to recruiting talent and employees, how are we supposed to hire people when our reputation is that we're not making any money? And so what I want to do today is talk about strategies that have worked for farm broadcasters to bring in more revenue, to be more attractive to the talent pool that's out there. And also hear from our allied industry members and experts about what potential clients are willing to pay for and what they're interested in from our farm broadcasters. And so that's what we're doing today. And we'll just jump right in with kicking things off with our first guest. And I'm honored to introduce you to your new NAFB Executive Director, Gardner Hatch. Gardner has experience in the agency world. He's also a past affiliate member. And so, Gardner, I think I'll let you take it from here. If you have a few words to share with members, I believe this is your first official time, as an as our executive director addressing membership. So kick us off.
I will. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. And would you like also me to cover a little bit on the allied industry side as well, as far as
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of the sides?
Set the stage for us, Gardner, with your
Okay.
introduction and then
Yeah.
what you've noticed in terms of trends in your area.
So I'll start with, I'm going to be wearing two hats this afternoon, the executive director hat and the allied industry hat. So let me put my executive director hat on first. The new executive director for NAFB, as Stephanie said, 3 weeks in. I thank you all for your support. I've received a lot of emails and such. Thank you for the support and confidence. I come from the allied industry side, and then looking forward to bringing some of that experience into NAFB. If all of you have received the email that I sent out this morning, I talk a lot about to members. I talk a lot about increasing the value of the membership, and that's really a theme that I have going into this role, because that gets to increasing the value of membership. That it gets to attracting new members, but also gets to everybody really feeling like they value their membership. So we're looking really strongly at some of the education and resources that we can bring together, whether it's additional tools that you need to do your jobs even more better, programming such as webinars like this. What can we do to enhance the news service? We do have plans for the website and as well to enhance the website. And other new things like leadership training, which we're planning for the upcoming year. So a lot of things on tap. And anytime you have a suggestion or input, drop me a line or give me a call. So, okay, I'm going to take that hat off. I'm going to put my allied industry cap on. I spent over 30 years on the ag agency side, working specifically in marketing and public relations, strategic communications for equipment and ag chem and seed companies, etc. Some people say I was pretty crazy for spending 30 years on the agency side, but I learned a few things along the way. But one of the things when Stephanie and I were talking about earlier a couple of days ago about this webinar is, what are some of the trends as far as marketing spend that we're seeing in the industry? I looked up in the old agri-marketing, which says that there's a poll done of agri-marketers. 93% of agri-marketers are optimistic about 2024. So, okay, we have optimism. What does that mean? 64% say the spending will be up, which sounds pretty optimistic until you look into it, and it's like as low as 1% increase in spending to maybe 3 or 4%. So spending is not increasing dramatically across the board. And I've been seeing that as well as an agri-marketer. So 34% say marketing communication spending will be down or the same. It's a tough market out there. And I think you all are seeing it too with the advertising dollars. But one statistic that really stood out to me, the final trend I'll bring out, is that 90% of agri-marketers say they are launching new products in 2024. So despite some of the negativity out there, companies are launching new products, and that spells opportunity for you as farm broadcasters. One thing that especially in recent years, is that there's a focus on making every dollar count. I've seen this particularly over the past several years. Everything's got to have a return. The marketers that I've worked with as clients, they spend the money. Well, what am I going to get from that? Whether it's clicks or awareness or whatever it is, or even how many gallons of herbicide I'm going to sell for the spend. But there's a real focus on making every dollar count. Budgets are tight, and they want to see that return, which makes it hard for radio. But we're getting closer in some of the listenership research that's been done. But that's always going to be more of a challenge for radio. Digital marketing is key. Reaching those target audiences directly, and getting those clicks and engagement. Social media is up as well. That's really where a lot of the audiences are. What does all this mean for radio? When we were looking at communications programs, and I think this is true across the board, everybody, we have more limited dollars. Everybody wants to stand out. And I think that's really important, as you look for what other opportunities do I have as a broadcaster, to increase revenue. Look for ways that you can help the marketers stand out. They don't want to look the same, especially with more limited dollars. What kind of programs or programming can you offer that makes them stand out from the competition? Influencers and influencer marketing as well. And I think this is really important for broadcasters. You all are influencers in your respective markets. You stand out. That trust factor is really important. And as when I was on the marketing side and the advertising side, that's what we paid for in working with broadcasters. We did a podcast. With one client, and actually Ken Root, famous broadcaster, was the host. We were buying his name. We were buying his influence. So again, you all are influencers in your respective markets. So how can you market that for your benefit and for your stations or company's benefit? Playing to that strength, I think, is going to be really important. So you guys are rock stars in your markets. You bring that immediacy in your markets as well. So if there's something going on that a company has that they need a quick turn, something going on with a product, they can come to you and they can really regionalize that communications and get it out very quickly. That trust factor, and then of course the listenership research that we have that you can market too. Another thing, if I'm going too long, just tell me. I got a couple more things here, Stephanie.
I do have some follow-ups, but I can wait till you're wrapped up.
Yep. One thing that really worked well for us across the board and with multiple clients is custom content. Content is still king. Everybody wants to push content out there. We've done with different outlets, different radio broadcast outlets, where we have the broadcaster kind of either coordinate interviews or kind of be the MC for some of the custom content programs that we put out there. And that could be built around the theme. I worked a lot in ag chem, so maybe we build a theme around, herbicide resistance tools or whatever, and then we have different experts come on. They could be third-party experts, and then the company experts. So you're not really, it's not all about product. You're talking about kind of a theme that helps, an agronomic theme, for example, that helps build a reputation for the product or for the company, and then the broadcaster can kind of help host some of those broadcasts, and you can package that into a series. Some of you are probably already doing some of this. It works really well, and the feedback that we get on the client side from those are very positive. I already mentioned podcast hosting, any kind of events or live remotes. I worked with an equipment manufacturer once, and we did campaigns around ride-alongs in the fall and getting the broadcaster out in the field, and then doing a package, kind of a paid package around kind of that whole thing. So that worked really well too. Yeah, and any kind of digital solutions. You mentioned one more thing. You mentioned trade talk as well. This is really kind of a big thing of mine. I think that allied industry could really utilize trade talk a lot more and broadcast too, and making it's not just about trade talk and getting that, free interview. So what can broadcasters do and sales to bridge the gap between, you got them all there, start the conversation at trade talk, and then what can you do as follow up? And maybe it's with some of your target customers or potential customers, is sending them that audio link afterwards as a way to make that connection. The interview that you did, send them that audio link and then start that conversation about, hey, what do you have coming up next year? And how can we help you with it? So how can trade talk be used as a better tool to kind of bridge that gap, start that conversation? Okay, I will end there. And any questions?
Well, thank you, Gardner. And really, I hope this is jogging people's, idea flow in their brain about things that they can do to open up revenue streams. Maybe you're already brainstorming ideas that you can take back to your station. I love all the points you made. We'll talk more about this later in the program. We'll swap some ideas with each other. We have an egg sales specialist, Liz Motzke, also along with us to kind of present a case study. Gardner, there were a couple of points you made that I wanted to follow up with you on. You said metrics and tracking data can be hard for radio, but you said we're close to getting there. What do you mean by that? And how can we do better at tracking metrics and data when it comes to who's listening and if it's making an impact?
Well, we know that we have the listenership survey that's done every 2 years that NAFB does. So we know that across the board, 80% of farmers depend on radio daily for information for their local news, and we know why. So I don't have to go into all that. There's also data that is showing that over 50% of those who listen to an ad or something they hear on farm radio, they go to a website. They eventually go to a website to learn more. Now that's really powerful to me. So when I say we're getting closer, that's what advertisers are looking for. They're looking for the so what factor. All right, yeah, okay, they're listening. They heard my ad, but so what? Did it spark action? Did they do so? Are they going to engage with my company or product? And if we can get closer to that, with digital communications, okay, you can track everything every which way. With radio, to me, that over 50% figure is showing they're taking action. They're seeking more information from what they're hearing on your programming, from the ads. So that's what I mean by we're getting closer, and that's what advertisers want to see.
Gardner, my next question for you, when you talk about buying a broadcaster's influence and personality and name for that matter, how long does it take a broadcaster to get that kind of influencer tag with them? There are quite a few young broadcasters just starting in NAFB, oftentimes working under some big personalities. How long does it take to get that kind of, relationship with your listener and influencer status with the people who are paying for advertising?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's any kind of, formula for that. Probably depends on the market, how crowded the market is and how big the market is. But I don't think it takes very long. I mean, if you're on the air in your respective market and you have farmers, ranchers, rural audiences tuning in and depending on you, listening to you, I don't think it's going to take, but even a couple years. You don't have to be like a national rock star. You could be a rock star in your own specific market, and that's all that they're looking for. So.
I'll open it up to it for those listening right now. If you have any questions for Gardner, feel free. I don't know if you have to raise your hand or if you can unmute yourself and just go for it. I'm not seeing any action. Well, Gardner, I hope you stay on in case there's questions at the end.
Yep.
And then I think
I'm going to learn a thing. I'm going to learn a thing or two as well. So.
I hope so. Yeah. So we'll take more questions at the end, and we'll also have an open discussion. So be ready. I want to hear your tips and tricks as we get going here. Our next presenter today is our Midwest Farm Report Egg Sales Specialist, Liz Motzke. She has prior experience with World Dairy Expo, and now her job is to help us think outside the box, make creative sales. She also works directly with our national rep as well. And Liz, you have a case study to share with us. I'm excited to see it. Take it away.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Stephanie. So obviously we are very good. I think we have a short little presentation. I'm not sure if Mike was going to share that. Anyway, so right, we can make revenue off spots and dots, as we like to call it, and we do that pretty successfully. A lot of what I have to say just echoes Gardner's ideas or suggestions or thoughts, and we've just taken it a step further and can kind of show you what we've seen and what works. So for us, one of the big things is you're already capturing content, and it seems, thanks to podcasts and stuff, our content might become longer at times and even becomes a little more condensed at times. And because of that, we can actually reuse and repurpose and restructure content to be used in multiple facets. And you're able to kind of build packages around kind of this initial maybe interview, podcast, whatever it might be, and then you can kind of break down into additional add-ons. Into a package situation. That's something that's worked super successful for us. We try to do it a lot. We kind of cater those elements to our different clients depending on what their reach is, what their need is, who they're trying to talk to. So for example, a lot of times if we do a longer podcast, we might get a 60-second clip out of that podcast, and then might sell a radio schedule with that 60-second clip. And then that clip then invites them to our website or the client's website to listen to the full episode. This same thing can be done through social channels as well. We can, kind of tease it up on Facebook, for example. Boosting posts is relatively inexpensive. And thanks to the algorithms laid out by Facebook now, it's almost a little bit of a necessary evil. But for as little as even just $15 or $20 a post, you can kind of push that messaging out. And again, we've seen fantastic results. Again, for as little as a $20 investment, will reach somewhere in the neighborhood on average of about 2,500 people. And then depending on the content, we can get up to 50, 60 click-throughs. Again, if we're promoting a podcast or perhaps an interview listen, that can all, we're kind of seeing those then translate into traffic to a website, traffic to a podcast, downloads, listens, that kind of thing. Additionally, sometimes what we do is we do include a lot of times the full episode on our podcast. So we maybe will only do a snippet of an interview in some of our update reports or our morning show segment. So we invite people again back to our podcast to get the full listen. Different situations call for perhaps we charge for this, perhaps not, perhaps it's just part of the overall package. For anybody out there who is involved with hosting podcasts and hosting, there is fees associated with that. I'm sure you're all aware. So sometimes as you kind of build these packages, you can build that in as well, that you're housing that content for them, or breaking into maybe a podcast subset that's just their content. So they can post it in a player and just their website. We do some of that as well. One thing that I was kind of hoping we could share is something we've had a lot of success with, is something we call audiograms. I'm sure there's lots of other names for it, but we call them audiograms. That same 60-second content, we basically can plug into, there's a number of different kind of free or inexpensive softwares out there, and that will generate basically the words across the bottom. And then we're able to add just a handful of pictures, 3-4 pictures. And this is now like a mini video. These videos then, again, traction on things like social channels, YouTube, websites, emails is massive. Video is a very powerful tool. And again, we're taking our audio, our expertise, our influence, and we're able to just kind of set some pictures to it to help tell that story, and then take that content that was on our airwaves and push it out even further through other avenues, tying our digital back to our airwaves, back to essentially driving people hopefully to a website. As we've learned from the study, 58% of people will hit up a website that you as broadcasters mention, whether that's on the air or in your content. Finally, the last thing is kind of this idea of being the influencer. We just kind of talked about that. Your voice and your image has a lot of power. You're kind of the original. When we talk influencers, TV and radio personalities rank super high as kind of that original set of influencers. And from there, again, like Gardner kind of mentioned, you have a lot of power with that, and you are paying for the name, for the recognition, for the reach that can come with that. We have a lot of success in coupling radio situations with just selfie videos. Even for prospecting clients, Stephanie can attest to this. We've had her just do a short 30-second video. Hey, I'm Stephanie, super excited at the possibility of working with you. Here's what I know about your product, or here's how your product has personally impacted me. And that is a super valuable piece. It doesn't take a lot of time. And, oh, there we go. Doesn't take a lot of time, and again, can be something that helps not only create the sale and the connection if you're not able to personally bring your broadcaster along, which broadcasters are super busy, so they can't always do. But again, you can then kind of work that into a package situation and say, hey, we can be on site. We can do some simple videos. They're not highly produced or anything like that. We're not videographers. But again, we can also take audio out of those videos if it's good enough, obviously, depending on if we're outside, the weather conditions, all that kind of stuff. And then we can kind of create additional content from there. So as you can see, Stephanie kind of pulled up our little presentation here. So kind of, again, audiograms, they can be any length. That's the other nice thing. We also use audiograms in our streaming. So you can set certain times of day that an audiogram or that kind of animated video will play before they get a live stream. If people are listening to you over maybe a website or an application. And again, you have a little more fluidity with content length and stuff because they don't have to be quite as precise on the audiograms. And again, they can live a number of places. I think that's all I have for right now, Stephanie.
Well, yeah, thanks. I didn't know I had the power to screen share, so I apologize. Thank you, Liz. And I have a question for you. Now, this sounds like a lot of work. And if you're a one-man show or two-woman show or whatever, I mean, how big of a team do you need to be able to be able to edit these packages, learn to do the social media stuff and the boosting? Does it take a village?
I mean, so it can take a village, but it is, I think, very manageable even with a small team. Like I alluded to with the audiograms, there's some inexpensive software or perhaps even free software out there that will do the translation for you. Maybe you already subscribe to those services for other reasons, and then you're literally just editing a couple pictures together, which again, thanks to things like even iMovie, and some of those other built-in applications in your phone, you can put together pretty quickly and pretty efficiently. Same with selfie videos. Selfie videos are just you and your cell phone. You're already attached to your cell phone. The cell phone quality on as far as audio and video has come a long way. So even doing video shoots and stuff can become pretty inexpensive and pretty easy to do. I think thanks to the influencer movement, the more organic they are, the more powerful they are. Again, it's showing you as an influencer in your natural environment, talking to a friend essentially through these selfie videos. And so honestly, the less produced they are, almost the better in that respect, because again, you're kind of leaning into that influencer part, and you're having a very kind of honest and connecting moment in those videos when you're really talking directly to somebody. So I don't think they have to be highly produced. And the good news is a lot of these things you're probably already doing bits and pieces of already. You just didn't realize you could take it to another step further without a lot of additional time or resources on your end.
And Liz, we're calling them audiograms, but I think they're known as reels on Instagram and Facebook.
Reels, audiograms, again, they're all kind of the same idea. They're these short video snippets. The nice thing about what we do in broadcast is we already have the audio, so adding images to it isn't difficult. We don't necessarily have to have video to go with it. It can be as simple as your picture or a picture of the subject that's being talked about. Thanks to things like Shutterstock, you can get a lot of images that are approved for use and can be distributed without any issues. And so, you can plug in 2 or 3 pictures, reels, as it were, and with your audio, your voice, and kind of bring that to life.
Yeah, the overarching theme of this is doing more with what you already have. You have this 15-minute interview and you can create so much with it. It's probably already a one and done interview. If you're a seasoned broadcaster, you might as well videotape it while you're interviewing and throw it on your channels and YouTube. So doing more with what you have or doing more with less.
Yeah, I will say something we personally have not done, but have witnessed in at least our building is, I'm not sure if people are familiar with like Twitch, or this would be a case of like Facebook Live is something else that goes on in our building quite a bit, where they actually put an hour-long program live on Facebook. Those kinds of things get a ton of interaction. It's usually just setting up a stationary camera and you start, and you're just sitting there and people are fascinated by watching you do your job, by watching you talk to somebody. We have a Hispanic radio station that does it every day for an hour, like clockwork, and they get thousands of people who log onto their Facebook page every day to watch this organic conversation happen, that they're just literally have a phone on a tripod and they push start. So again, giving that snapshot into your own life as an influencer portion, it is still very powerful and helps you, like you mentioned, Stephanie, if you're a younger broadcaster looking to grow more connection, that can be a really easy way to kind of start to accomplish that.
Right. Our rule of thumb is FaceTime with our audience, and you can't be everywhere at once, but you can be online. So
Sure.
Excellent. Isn't that crazy? People want to watch you push buttons.
Oh, people want behind the scenes stuff. When I worked in ag chem, with ag chem clients, actually agronomists in the respective areas are also influencers, rock stars. They're known, and anything they do, they would go out in the field and pull out their iPhone and record, scouting a field or something very simple, and kind of talk along the way. And you're right, Liz, almost like the more organic the video, the better. It's more authentic. and they send that into the agency, and we kind of like chop it down a little bit, and we do all kinds of stuff with it. The engagement on that stuff was off the charts. They want to see that stuff, behind the scenes. What does an agronomist do? What are they seeing, and what are some of their impressions? So that's a great opportunity.
Liz, I have a follow-up question for you. You briefly mentioned talent, or giving yourself some of the action for your time and your maybe even for production. How do you know what you're worth? How do you charge a talent fee?
Well, I think that's something that you can work with your team, your sales force and stuff to kind of help establish those numbers. In our situation, I do help build in some talent fees for people depending on their seniority, how much they're expected to do with a client. And it's a great way to help kind of grow that bottom line and that revenue for broadcasters. In addition, if your organization allows you to do that, I'm not sure what everybody is set up to do. But I think honestly, you work with your sales team and see what they're kind of hearing, what they understand for talent to be, and then they know enough to kind of build it in and kind of say, here's where we're at with these types of things. Sometimes those numbers have to move around a little bit. You might get talent for section A and B, but not for section C. But I do personally try and work it out that talent is covered on some level for everybody on the team if they're blending their voice and their influence to a project.
Gardner, you joked how you were wearing a couple hats today, being in the allied industry for many years, and now as the NAFB new executive director. Farm broadcasters also wear a lot of hats. Does the industry expect a farm broadcaster to not only talk on air, but be a writer, be a photographer, be a videographer, and all these things that we can do? Is that what the industry is asking for?
Oh, Gardner, you're muted.
Mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think so to some degree, maybe not all those hats, but certainly video is playing into it more. I think advertisers are looking, more for that. I don't know about the writing part, but yeah, certainly more than just the kind of the broadcast part. The more that you can bring to the table, the better, along with your, rock star status.
Yeah. And I liked, you brought up trade talk early on, and that's something that I did want to talk to you about a little bit more. There's a lot of product at Trade Talk, and it's hard to air product to a listener for free, essentially.
Yeah.
Can you expand more on what you said about creating a theme around a product so you don't have to necessarily just talk about the commercial side of things, but also make it content that's consumable?
I guess that's how we've always approached Trade Talk, is not going in with, unless it's a new product, it's like something brand new and revolutionary, but coming in with a theme for broadcasters to interview our clients on, bringing in someone who's interesting, and not just talk about X herbicide and what it does, kind of thing. So we've tried to package it into more of a story for broadcasters, because at the end of the day, you're going home with all these interviews, and we want to make sure that you're going to air our piece, right? So that's something that I think we try to carry on, really throughout the year. Is kind of packaging that, because that's what people are going to be interested in listening to. We've done a lot of we used to do a lot of the content series around, again, it's not around pushing product, but it's around building that theme around the product, kind of more of that soft sell. So again, if it's a product that has multiple modes of action and it fits really well in a resistance management program. Bye, Larry. Kind of build out that theme. So I mentioned too on Trade Talk, myself and my colleagues have always looked at Trade Talk as a way to begin the conversation, both for the people exhibiting there, but also for broadcasters. I know that time is limited, but how can you use that as a starting point to carry on that conversation afterwards, so that you can explore opportunities with advertisers, and a lot of the things that Liz talked about. How can you explore some of those things after Trade Talk is over? Getting some of that paid, some of the paid stuff.
And again, the forum is open for anyone that wants to talk. The fabulous Farm Babe Pam Yankee is online. Charity Seebecker. Always welcome to unmute and add into the conversation. We have been kind of sticking to more traditional radio format, talking about ways we can use our face, our voice to generate revenue. But what about things like, have you ever come across, I don't know, travel, speaking engagements, even renting out space? I mean, are these things that you've seen broadcasters do? These were things that when I called people, they came up with kind of unique ideas of things that they've done before.
So Todd Gleason was supposed to join us. I talked to him yesterday, but it looks like he hasn't been able to join today. And he has some topics for you on this and what they've done in terms of even creating events focused on the brand, whether it's you or the station. Events that he said that go back decades, just because people want to know who you are. They want to know the face that they're hearing on air, and they do want that behind the scenes stuff as well. But the opportunities you have there are to create an event that says, maybe it's a dinner, agribusiness dinner of some sort, where you have a caterer, you have a bunch of farmers come in that are listeners, and you have a presentation for them as well, something that they can learn from. And then it's not just an event where they're there to see you, that they're willing to pay to attend that event as well, to pay the fee that would, pay for the meal, pay for the program and that kind of thing, and generate the revenue for the station and for your talent. So the event side, there's some things to think about in terms of what you can do to give to your audience. What do they want from you? And then, make a program out of it that you can turn around and get sponsored.
Again, that's one of those things that it feels like that's a lot of work. Michael, in your experience, how big of a team do you need to be putting this stuff on?
Not as big as you would think. The tools are all digital and easy to use. So if you're utilizing your own channels to promote your events, you're using your own radio, your Facebook, maybe your email list, and that's where Todd would get in and say how valuable an email list is. If you have a credible email list of your listeners, that's your marketing channel in terms of your own events. And using those channels to just one or two people, can plan that. It doesn't take as many as you think to pull off a decent event. So.
And that's got me thinking too, Michael and Gardner, since we have you on here in your new positions as executive director and COO, I've got to ask, how often does NAFB sit down and have to think about unique revenue streams and the sales and marketing side of things for our organization?
Every day. Michael's has more longevity with the association, but that's something we're thinking about every day, and looking for new ways to, for Allied and for broadcasters to partner more, and then what do those revenue streams look like for the association too. So Michael, you probably have more to add, but that's a big focus.
Yeah, I think you're right in every day, and especially now as we move forward into the future. But it's really about to drive revenue, you have to have the programming. So what can we do to provide programming? In your world, it's to provide programming to your listener. For us, it's what can we provide our broadcasters to help them learn and to have these kind of conversations even, and what can you do to improve your own bottom lines from that? So
maybe the NAFB Academy can bring in a sponsorship, huh?
That's, as you say, we talk about these things every day, and that's one of the things we talk about. So
funny you should mention that, Stephanie.
Yep.
That's what today's all about. And I don't think we need to go more than, what we need to today. Again, this is going to be posted on YouTube for folks who couldn't make it today. And I do think, if anyone has any follow-up questions, are they welcome to reach out to you, Gardner, to you, Liz, to you, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Drop me an email, give me a call. I'm always available. Would love to brainstorm.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, if you can't find me, you can definitely find Stephanie, and I'm sure she can connect us on just if you have questions or what we've seen.
We're in your NAFB directory for those who have
Sure.
ordered that. Well, great. Oh, there I am. Well, great. Thank you guys so much. I think we'll end things here. And yeah, I hope this gets a great audience on YouTube. I think this was a good discussion today.